Thank you to all of our guests joining us online, and welcome to the first of our business conversation sessions that we're hosting from a Standard Bank point of view. We're going to be focusing these sessions on practical business questions and how we can help you with your business challenges. We've got a number of questions that were submitted in advance. We'll go through those at the end of the session, but please will you type your questions in the chat, and we'll take them through and answer later on in the session. Today I'm joined by Ben Brits from Transaction Capital. He's the executive for solutions delivery in Transaction Capital, and he's going to help take us through how data is relevant to your business and how it can help really change some of the dynamics and improve your efficiencies. We're going to start with talking about the data exchange program AUTHENTIFI that I think a number of you have been involved in over the recent months. And I think, so Ben, welcome. Thank you for your time. And I think maybe we start with just a quick update on where we are with the platform.
Stuart, thanks for the update. It's been an interesting journey. We've involved Standard Bank and their clients from the get-go. When we ideated the concept, I think it was November 2020, if I recall back, and we launched a minimal viable product that enabled a certain bunch of functions. And then after that, we had a focus group again with a lot of customers, mostly the Standard Bank ones. And they then dictated certain other things they would like to see in the very near-term future. And I'm very, very proud and excited to say we've built the majority of those. There's one or two coming after this. The product is slowly but surely evolving from a typical credit bureau type offering into spanning a whole range of other services to really enable our customers to add value to their business from origination all the way through to impairment.
It sounds fantastic. I've obviously seen a large number of these pieces, but as I promised the audience, today is going to be around practical examples on how this can help with a business problem. So with that in mind, I think the first business problem we wanted to talk about, Ben, is the world of unclaimed benefits. I think it's a very significant problem in the South African market. There's lots of pressure from the government to take over these unclaimed benefits, manage them themselves. And I think every large corporate that I know of has some aspect of this problem. So I think what we should do is if you could take us through how we would approach solving an unclaimed benefits problem. Where do you start and how does the system work?
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Very interesting and a very topical conversation right now. I've seen some news reports where there's billions and billions of rand at play, and the regulators are trying to get the fund managers, the insurers and those guys to say, find your customers, make sure you pay their dues to them and so forth. But I really feel sorry in some of the customer interactions I've been in. How do you pay something to someone if you can't get hold of them to start with? You don't have the right contact details, the cell phone numbers have changed and so forth. So I almost want to start then to say in the AUTHENTIFI platform, we've got great contactability information that we don't buy, we don't source it from a bank, a credit bureau, anyone else. This is information we gather ourselves. We rank it, we sort it, we confirm it, and therefore we've got probably the two best contact numbers, the two best emails, and supporting info below that. So step one is how do we help the customer to say, just reach out to the consumer and try and make contact with them. If you do that successfully, the next thing you want to do is to say, is the consumer claiming who they intend to be because you only spoken to them on the phone? So we've now successfully integrated backwards towards a service from Standard Bank where we can use biometrics to identify the individual in real time. And the capability would allow you to up and download your photo of your ID and your face, and then algorithms run and it's verified in real time with Home Affairs. So step one, you would reach out to the person on the right contact details. Step two, you will KYC him almost in real time. And the consumer, by the way, can do that all on their own. Step three would then be to say, but how do you now verify the updated particulars? AKA, when I used to work with company X and I paid my pension and 10 years later you reach out to me, my banking details have changed. A simple example, my PO box details have changed and so forth. And then the question is, do you take that on the phone while reaching out to me, or do you need formal correspondence where I had to sign updated paperwork? My intuition tells me it's more leaning towards the second option there. And again, in line with customer requirements, we've developed with one of our partners to say, how do we send correspondence to that consumer to say, send us your updated particulars, but do it in a formally registered way. So it can stand in a court of law. You can show the regulators. I did send out formal correspondence that you had to sign, and on receiving those back, you can then go one step further to say, but okay, the guy gave us updated banking details. Again, use the AUTHENTIFI data exchange platform to go and verify the information as true, accurate, and relevant. And if you follow that cycle through all the way, so we've enabled you to contact them, then KYC, then formally send correspondence, and then verify the info you got from the correspondence. And in our estimation, based on some POCs we've already seen from customer, that is the golden thread. That literally enables you from, I can't get hold of you, to I got hold of you, I verified, and I'm now ready and able to start paying away the benefits that's due to.
I think it's nice. It touches on what you said earlier, how the AUTHENTIFI platform is starting to move away from just a data provision service to solving that complete value chain. Obviously, from a bank point of view, we're quite excited about the KYC service. It's a service we do use ourselves in the bank, to open bank accounts, and it's proven a very successful product. So great to see that it's coming together. I think just tying what you were saying. So one is the process of doing it on the platform is very powerful. I think to me the key thing is about that risk management. This is an area, and we know from talking to clients, there's a lot of fraud here. Identity fraud, bank account fraud, and this kind of seems to give a very robust way to mitigate that in the industry. So I think it's definitely something that is going to start producing huge dividends, I think.
Yeah, Stu, definitely. I almost recall some of our very early conversations in our alliance with Standard Bank, and some of those conversations were, whatever you do, make sure you digitize. Try and minimize paperwork. Whatever you do, make sure it's compliant. Absolutely critically important, and therefore the great partnership with Standard Bank to say they're promoting a product, and therefore your customers can take peace of mind. You're dealing with a major bank. They have made sure all compliance tick boxes are in place. The data is used only fit for purpose. It's highly secure, and so forth. So those things have been carefully considered from the get-go. And therefore also, you touch on it, we've moved away from trying to just offer a credit bearer type offering into, so if you get info and you work out what you need to do, how do you start to transact, contact, enable, correspond, all as a single stop, one-stop offering?
Great hope for this solution in the market, and I think we'll see what our clients think of it a little bit later. I think now to move on to the next business problem, and this is one of the questions that we've seen from a number of clients, and it's really about the power of data in the sales origination process. So this is around when I found a client, I've got a client who wants a product, but I'm not necessarily sure or efficient in getting that client onboarded and transacting. Are they going to pay? Are they going to pay for the rest of the time frame of the contract? So that sales origin process, how would it AUTHENTIFI plug into that and solve some of those problems?
Yeah, very interesting question, Stuart. And let me start by responding. Sales origination, new sales, is typically the heartbeat of any company because that ensures your sustainable growth and revenue upliftment and so forth. But now the scenario is slightly different. So you're not that worried about contacting the individual. He's on the call with you. You're trying to sell something to him, or he's phoned you to buy something from you. He might be in one of your branches applying for something. He might even be on a website, applying for whatever he intends to make use of. So contactability is not the main issue now. But first things first, again, you have to KYC that you're talking to the right individual, especially when, ID fraud and all the risk that comes with that. And again, I'm going to refer back to the bank rate level biometrics that we've incorporated through the partnership with Standard Bank. You can use that while engaging with a customer to say, listen, thanks, Ben, for reaching out. We'd love to sign you up. Would you mind quickly in a 30-second process confirm that you are a real person, the right person, and you are live right now? So that will almost be step one that the offering enable you to do. Once you've done that, so we've established it is really this individual who we're talking to. Now you want to make sure to say, can he afford what he intends to buy from us? Will he pay us when the date comes, whenever we need to do that? What's the risk indicators we have to look at? And those could include things such as adverse findings. Have you ever been sequestrated? Is there any formal judgments against his or her name? And the whole range of credit bureau, credit worthiness type of info that follows that. And again, all of those services are available right now, but more importantly, in real time. So I'm still role-playing this thing. I'm talking to you. You're allowing me to KYC myself in real time. In the background, you're already checking out all the credit and worthiness stuff on me. And at the end of that journey, you possibly then would have made in your own platforms or environment a risk-based call on me. And if that risk-based call is positive, the last thing you then want to do is, so let's just confirm your banking details. So now I'm going to the account verification or even the account verification amplified service to verify, to say, we know we're talking to Ben. He is the right person. He can afford and he will pay us. Let's just check the banking details. And that typically would finish almost a sales cycle, if I can refer to that. There's one other piece that you can then do to say, Stuart, thank you for signing up. We'd love to welcome you, part of the family. Watch your SMS or email. We're going to send formal correspondence to you, which will say, this is your formal policy, your cell phone contract, your new retail account, or whatever the product relates to. And then you can send the correspondence to activate that product in real time right now, but in a formal way. All right, and that would pretty much, again, then end that use case to say, you've made contact with us, we've KYC'd you, we've worked out the propensity and risk models, and we've sent you our correspondence all in real time.
I think what I like about that is also the way the platform works, right? So because it's a very flexible platform, you can either plug it into your business through the APIs or do direct sales on it. You actually have a way of solving that solution irrespective of the client's business model, whether it's a broker-based sales process, it's in a branch, it's a call center. I think the platform sort of manages to tick all of those boxes by the way that it's been structured.
Yeah, Stuart, so we've seen a combination of all of those, let's call it channel plugins or in an omni-channel way. So we have customers that directly from their line of business system plug into our platform in an API way. But that's a certain portion of that business. Then there's a different part of that business. It might be the risk and compliance or audit or finance functions who uses the online version of the exact same thing. And they would use it for things like audit trails, reporting, finding trends and patterns. And we've also seen other divisions in that company to say, listen, these guys have done the sales piece, these guys have done the collections piece, but now we want to do the pre-legal piece and we want to upload a once-off clean-off of anything in our 30 to 60 days pre-legal book. So we'll use the same capability to do batch, up and download, in other words, the bulk transactions. And that's enabled through something as simple as a CSV file in Excel. You can upload into the exact same platform. Still secure, still compliant, but in a way, we've now touched 3 different areas all in the same company with 3 different channel touch points.
Yeah, and then effectively the data is still in a single place, no matter what the origination channel was for the customer.
Absolutely, period. It's always still secure, it's always available with audit trails and so forth.
Okay, definitely very powerful. I think and we've spoken about it a little bit as we went through that use case, but the expertise around that behavioral analytics that's coming out so strongly in the platform. To me, that starts to look very powerful. And you touched on it around is the client going to pay scenario? So what have you got built into AUTHENTIFI that really gives us insight into the client's behavior when we're making that decision around the client?
Yeah, Stuart, great question. And that starts to talk to our core competency in building and offering this platform. Through our call center business, backed up by the analytics and the real clever technical guys, let me be the first one to say the journey to work out if people's going to pay you is a never-ending one. You never arrive at a perfect answer because 2 months from now, that answer looks very different. But we've got an incredibly rich database on literally millions and millions of credit active consumers with extensive history behind that. And from that, we can work things out. Will you pay your dues on this account in 3 months from now if there's a 50 Rand tolerance on the installment value? As one example. Another example, will you pay me for the first 4 months, but you're going to start to miss one payment in month 5, and in month 7, you're going to stop paying completely. So we've got that level of detail and insights on around about 20 million credit active consumers that can pinpoint your timing variances. When is the best day of the month to pay? We know that there's strike dates. What's your propensity to keep on paying as long as you keep the value below X? And we can even enrich that with things over time to say, well, if you get the normal payment commitment and you give me a little loyalty scheme of every time you pay me, I'll give you 5 Rand back. So we've got even that level of insight into how to make sure you treat every customer uniquely, so it's not a one rule fits all. 2, how do you keep on updating that information? And 3, how do you take non-payment variables into play? You know the old example, everyone battles in January, and you spell it with a W. Because you spend all the money over the Christmas season, you bought presents and so forth. So that level of non-payment variables is built into the platform, and they are continually enhanced.
And I think, that talks to, I guess, the power of data, and it also gets leveraged in your Alchemy collection platform. It's the same, a practical way to adjust those actual collection dates based on those insights. I'm looking at this, and I do know this, but it's the combination of the data and the tools and the way we get it, and obviously we've taken this out to a number of clients at the moment. Now, it is live in the market with some of these services. What is the feedback you're getting from clients? How is it actually helping their business? Are you seeing a real business impact from clients on the ground?
Yeah, Stuart, again, let me try and explain it with real case scenarios. So a lot of our early adoption clients have all been in the game that they've sold a product, they're collecting mostly via debit orders after the fact, and now the payments are just not coming through. And they weren't sure, are they using the wrong type of debit order? In other words, maybe I should have used debit check or not. Am I trying to debit on the wrong day of the month? Maybe my installment value is too high, they can't afford it. So all of those scenarios became through. And then immediately where we started adding values to say, well, step 1 again, take a step back and first of all, make sure, have you done a recent updated creditworthiness check on the individual? So now we're not worried about contact details and verifying AVS and banking stuff. That's all now done, but now you sit with payments that's supposed to come in and they're not being honoured. So start at that step there, and then fully knowing you within 60 days, if you're going to take any type of legal action, if you don't just simply terminate, you have to start corresponding formally with that client backwards, and it won't stand up in a court of law unless you do it in a registered way. So almost the old registered letter concept through the post office. But again, we've digitized that process, we've automated it, we've put it into real time to say, well, when you're in a situation where everything else we've done on the data platform doesn't help you, you have to now start to correspond and send out something like a letter of demand, a section 129. We've again enabled you to do that in a formalized way. So a court of law will see, but hold on, you sold a product, it was a valid contract, you got the domicile, the email and cell phone of the individual. Despite that, he or she is still not paid, and now you're taking possible pre-legal action. And what we've seen from that, a lot of them have come back to say, hold on, I've got better contact details, I can correspond in a formal way. 25% once I do that correspondence have actually come back to us to say, I'm really sorry, I had a bit of a bad month last month, but here is my payment, or you can double collect from me next month. And even after that, based on the enriched data that we say, what's the propensity of people to pay you, customers have now quickly realized maybe I don't have to pass over thousands and thousands of records to my external debt recovery agents, because I can already see I'm going to throw bad money after good money.
That's going to have an immediate impact
impact straight away and across the value chain. They save, charges on trying to debit on the wrong day and maybe not track for 5 days, only do so for 2. You've got contact details in case you want to reach out to them, they haven't paid you, you've got that in reach. You then can correspond in a formal way which will stand up in a court of law. And then you arrive at the point to make much smarter decisions on what do you do when they still haven't paid you. Do you impair, do you write off, do you hand over, and so forth. Okay, and if that answers you in a very practical way, we've seen huge successes in that space already.
Okay, it's something that's very different. I haven't seen this anywhere in the market before, so we're really excited to roll it out. And I think talking of new things, obviously this is a ongoing journey. We've seen, and for the clients on the line who've followed us on this journey, we've been rolling out functionality on a regular basis for the last sort of 6 months since the launch. What's coming next? What should we get excited about? What are we going to land in the near future?
Probably, if I'm truthful here, by far the most exciting piece for me. So I've elaborated on some of the things that we're currently doing, some of the things that we're busy developing and about to land. But I'm going to give the audience a bit of an insight to say what's coming in possibly about 3 months from now. Again, we'll be in contact with our our target market when the time comes. But the first thing first, we are building an affordability service which gives you insight to say that the consumer, first of all, is employed. We know on what day the employer will typically pay them. But we're now starting to give you insights to say what's his net income, not the gross, the net income, what's the current installments or commitments he's already paying, and how much free cash is available. I know it's disposable income. So straight away, you can now make a much better decision. If the guy's got only 500 Rand left and you're trying to sell him a product that costs 2,000 Rand, there's clearly going to be a problem. So we're building out the concept of the propensity to pay that takes care of all the other parameters I've spoken about, from a credit score to adverse findings, the affordability service. And that's going to be the first to market that will tell you the propensity for steward to pay his commitment on a monthly basis. In other words, it's time sensitive, on an installment value basis, so it's Rand sensitive, and it's also during the month when are you going to pay and when will you not, and will you keep on doing that in a consistent or an erratic behavior. In other words, you typically pay for 2 months and then you drop one, and after 4 months, depending if you get legal action against you or not, you just stop paying altogether. All right, so that's something that we think is going to take the market by storm, to our knowledge, and we've done extensive research. That doesn't exist. The second thing is our contactability clearly is in a league of its own, but we increasingly get the pushback from clients to say, your number might have been great 2 weeks ago, but the guy has done a SIM swap. So we're actively integrating with one of our partners behind us to say, can you show and indicate if this number has recently been SIM swapped? That's also on the horizon. And then longer term, we'll get into the real moonshot type things to say, well, why don't you go one step further and start to get into the BPO, the business process outsourcing space? Why don't you call the consumer on my behalf? You anyway know much better than I do when to contact him, how to contact him, what number. But when you achieve right party call, why don't you transfer that call from your call center agent into the ear of my call center agent in a real-time way? So those are some of the things we are highly excited about. And then a continuous request we got to say, you guys have built a fantastic platform on consumer level data. So what about commercial level data? Can you give us this type of insight on companies and the directors of that companies, not only a one-by-one individual? So in the next 3 to 6 months, Stuart, that's the things we are actively engaging on. We've got a full-blown dev team working on that stuff, and we absolutely cannot wait to take those things to market in the short and near-term future.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited about that. I think it's where we really move past just providing a single source of data that's gathered to really getting into the insight and solving the business problems. You touched earlier on about the sort of home affairs data. You started off with just verify the ID number. We're now doing facial biometrics and full home affairs records and a number of really exciting aspects.
We may even end up obtaining, digitizing and providing you in real time a death certificate. Okay, so that's some of the level things we are investigating in future to see, first of all, can we do it? Is it viable to do so economically? And critically important, is it done in a compliant way? So those are some of the typical examples that we are ideating and working towards.
Normally I come to you and just tell you customers want it, because speaking to a large number of customers, that is really, really relevant in the pension fund industry, in the proof of life for policies, tracking and tracing of beneficiaries. That I think will be a significant impact in the market.
Yeah, I can share the same sentiment, Stuart. I haven't spoken to one insurer. It doesn't matter, small or large, short-term, long-term, any offering. All of them want better info, real-time info in a digital way from source. So they can stop depending on paper artifacts. You never know if it's true or not. Is it a fake copy, a certified copy? And it puts a huge sort of friction and load on the consumer. If I take someone like myself working mostly from home, I don't have a scanner and a copy and a fax machine and that type of thing. Fax is a bad example, but I don't have those type of tools to, first of all, print out something, sign it back, scan it in and get it back to you digitally. But if your business can pull all of that info at source, not just from me, in a real-time fashion, you've saved yourself and myself a ton of effort.
Yeah. Along with a secure delivery platform, that becomes a very, very, very powerful tool. So we've discussed a number of use cases. obviously for the audience on the line, we asked for questions in the beginning. We've got a couple of questions that came in advance. And obviously I can see some happening on the chat, which are being answered as we speak. I just want to go through a couple of those questions that we got from the audience. So the one that came in through a number of people was about the business data, which I think you've covered already. So definitely a big demand. And you just touched on it, but the business data is a link between the company data, the propensity of the company to pay, to who are the directors and their individual behavior. And does that, to me, it seems to come together from the customer and the individual data is a very good combination.
Yeah, so Stuart, what we've seen traditionally, the information available on commercial level has always been about trade risk, credit risk. Do I release the courier truck with R1 million worth of stock onto a company that I don't know? And I would do a credit report on that company. But increasingly, we're working out to say that's not good enough. You have to work out also the directors that control that company. How are they also operating in their personal capacity, not just on a company level? And we're slowly but surely starting to merge those two worlds because that gives you a world-class answer. Even if the company artifacts is spot on, but there's 3 directors and 2 of them are delinquent, then potentially there's risk. Okay, and therefore you have to think very carefully. Part of that also, and it's something we're actively talking to the bank about, so over and above the normal things we do on consumer level, do you start to link in things like anti-money laundering, politically exposed persons, and that becomes very relevant when you start to look at company-directed type things.
The second question coming through, as always, in every single session we've had is, what does it cost? But I'm not going to give a number here. I think I'll talk a little bit about the Standard Bank approach, but maybe just on how does your cost work? Because it's very complicated. It's changing all the time. I mean, it's quite hard to give somebody a price to say, please use our system. How are you working that in the background?
Stuart, thanks. Yeah, great question and an important question. One thing we've done from the get-go that's sort of different to the norm, we very, very seldom, unless it's a very deep, complicated API integration to multiple business units, we almost never charge implementation and onboarding and admin, that typical fee to start using our platform. We mostly, especially for Standard Bank clients and the big corporate clients, we hardly ever charge them a monthly or a system or a license fee. So literally, we only recover on a click for use. So if you'll only pay something when you use something, and then the system is quite flexible that you can cherry pick. If you don't want to use this or that, but you only want to use this, that is literally the only thing you pay for. And like any solid business, we then start to volume rank and scale those things. And obviously, the more you do, the less it becomes per unit or per click. But let me answer the question to you in a more practical way. So some of the early adoption clients that run POCs have taken us to task to say, hold on, so I have this data and that data and that data. Apparently yours are at least on par, if not better, but we're going to put you to task and we're going to POC a very specific purpose for a month. We're going to compare the before and after, and then we will see the return on investment. So what are we getting for what we're paying? And look, obviously, I'm not at liberty to mention client names or specific use cases, but we've seen returns to the multiple hundreds. So for every rand you spend to obtain, creditworthiness and contact info and send formal correspondence, your payback at the end of that cycle was multiples of hundreds, sometimes thousands. Because now you make much better decisions before the fact, you make great decisions during the fact, and you have an increasingly formal way to formally correspond after the fact. And consumers pay very close attention. Chances are they're probably going to start paying your business who do all of that versus the next business who does not. So we've seen great payback on the product.
I think maybe just to add to that from a Standard Bank point of view, and as you know, obviously, the Standard Bank strategy around this is delivering it through our platform One Hub. So again, you pay for the service you use. There's no integration costs. There's no monthly costs. And, in the same sort of vein as the pilot strategy, if you do 10 transactions this month, that's all you pay for. So we've been seeing some good feedback from our clients. And I think that takes me into the next question, is the bank's delivery model on this. I mean, I think it's quite clear from our platform strategy on how we want to take it to the market, and partnering with the transaction capital is key to us. But really the question to you is, what sort of feedback have you seen from clients about the bank's approach to this?
Yeah, Stuart, relevant question. So we've worked very closely with the Standard Bank OneUp team. Obviously, our offering is integrated into the OneUp platform. And some of the early adopter customers have come back to us, you know how much pain and effort you've saved us. We are already enabled on the OneUp platform. Then we found your little icon there of your product to use. And we clicked on it, and then by matching through single sign-on, we entered the platform without wondering about a new username, a new password, a different set of credentials. And because it's a bank offering, we're not worried about security risk and so forth, because it is from a secure bank environment. So the feedback on that has been amazing. And through that, it actually elaborates the partnership value chain approach between Standard Bank and ourselves. We've removed the pain from a customer that have to integrate with a bank for certain things, a credit bureau for other things, home affairs, and third-party providers that can simply only work via Standard Bank's OneUp platform. And then a combination of all of those services are available in the AUTHENTIFI data exchange platform.
Okay. And I think that actually brings me to my last question, and I'm going to ask you to just expand on this a little bit, because I get this asked a lot. When can we have it across the continent? It's a very powerful solution, lots of demand in other markets. Everybody wants something similar.
Yeah, great question, Stuart, especially for future sustainability. So at the outset, the let's call it the traditional credit bureau type services span many borders. I mean, probably on an international scale. The banking information, so something like account verification service, that spans borders. But the real crux of where we add value, in other words, how many consumers have we got, can we provide insights and detail and intelligence on them, it's fairly concentrated to the SA market, but also to the greater SADC region around us. So we're still relatively strong in those areas. Truthfully, we're not that great as you go further up in the country or the continent. So our expertise is still mainly based on SA, but we're absolutely aware about the burning need out there to say this level of competence probably doesn't reside in any other market than SA, and therefore we're actively working out how do we start breaching just the territories that we're familiar with into the rest of the business. Our own business is already integrated very, very strongly into the Australian market, and we've taken baby steps to expand that further into Europe. But in the SA and the SADC regions, we are, I think, fairly well set up to start expanding to those markets.
Okay. So wait and see. We'll expect this in the near future.
Yeah.
So I think to the audience, thank you for your time. I think, Ben, thank you for your participation. I mean, I know this is a journey we've both been on and something close to your heart. I'm really excited about the future for this. To our audience, thank you for joining us in this first of our business conversations. We'll be looking at having a number of these over the rest of the year on slightly different topics. Please feel free to follow up with any additional questions. Should you want to look at enabling the service, seeing demos, please contact your relationship manager with the bank. More than happy to set up time and take you through it. So thank you for your time, and yeah, that's a wrap.